Hi guys, my name is Mayra Hermosillo. I am part of the abnormal psychology course at Heritage University. And what we're going to be talking about today is insomnia disorder. This is something that many people do have in America, not only in the States, but also internationally as well. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what it is and symptoms and what we can do about it. So, what is insomnia disorder? According to the DSM-5, it is a predominant complaint or dissatisfaction with sleep quantity or quality. So, basically, what this means as far as quantity or quality is that, for example, you can't fall asleep. So, the person cannot fall asleep, and sometimes they can go days without sleeping. They will be tired, they will get all the effects of not sleeping, but even though they are tired, they cannot fall asleep. As far as quality goes, many times a person can go to bed, but they won't have a constant amount of sleep. So, for example, if I go to sleep at 10 o'clock, I might be waking up again at midnight, again at 2, again at 3, again at 4. So, there isn't really a constant amount of sleep. And what this affects, it's the REM stage of the sleeping that basically gives us the rest that we need to in order to feel refreshed the next morning. So there are two kinds of insomnia. So one is acute and the other is chronic. So basically what the acute is when a person goes through an event in their life and they are just reacting to it. So for example, if there is someone that's sick in your family and you can't seem to get them out of your head and it just gets in the way of your sleeping habits, uh, this is bound to happen. And usually with the acute insomnia is it's determined by the length it lasts. So for example, it will last less than a month versus a person that has chronic insomnia, they're looking to not be able to sleep for 3 months or more. Now, if you'd like to review the DSM code as well as the ICD-10 code, you guys are more than welcome to do that. For the DSM-5, it's just 780.52. In parentheses is the G4700. So you can definitely check that out to see the symptoms according to the book as well as the International Code of Diseases. That would be under F51.0. Now, in order to know if you are suffering from insomnia, the following are some symptoms that you may be going through that if they do apply to you, then you might happen to be an insomniac. Now, a lot of the times, the biggest areas in a person's life that these symptoms affect are in the personal and working life. So, for example, fatigue or inability to focus or concentrate on daily tasks such as driving or calling people or catching a bus or basically just catching small details, they're much, much harder to concentrate on. Now, this includes poor memory as well. So I can have a full night of being awake and I'm on my toes, and I might feel like I'm still on my toes by the time it hits 9 a.m., but it will decrease my memory. I won't be able to focus quite as easily at work, and sometimes that's where the danger comes in with insomnia. You don't wake up uh, feeling refreshed. You don't feel like you had any kind of rest. Now, this does disturb your mood. You will get daytime sleepiness. Um, Although some people do think that just because you are awake at night, it means that you're not sleepy or tired, which is complete opposite. You do feel tired, you just simply can't fall asleep. This also includes low motivation or energy, and there is increased errors or accidents. Now, this part is very dangerous to a person simply because, for example, when in a professional life, if you are working with motorized vehicles of that sort, it is very likely for you to get hurt. Sometimes people have been told that if they have a graveyard shift or something like that, they will probably be a little bit better at their job or they'll be more proficient, which is actually the opposite because when a person, let's say I am a truck driver, and I did not get a full night's sleep and I am driving at night, this will create a very tired, very drowsy, very icky feeling in me. So that this is definitely something that people need to understand, that you will be tired and you will be sleepy, but you just can't fall asleep. Now, the prevalence for insomnia is 30 to 35% of adults have brief symptoms of insomnia. So basically, what that means, um, it's very similar to what I had explained earlier about acute insomnia, where sometimes you can't seem to fall asleep. Something in your life might happen. For example, like you might have a family member who passed away, and that will keep you from your regular sleeping habits. 15 to 20% have short-term insomnia disorder, which lasts less than 3 months. Again, that is acute. And 10% have a chronic insomnia disorder, which occurs at least 3 times per week for at least 3 months. So this is something that most people start off with, and sometimes it can last up to 10, 15 years. It just depends on the person and how long it takes for them to get help. For example, in one of the case studies, there was 84 adults in Florida as part of the Florida State University where they were asked and assessed on insomnia, and 58% of them were women. So that shows a distinct amount of insomnia disorder victims just because it is women. Now, what if a person does have insomnia? These are the treatments for acute insomnia. So again, what acute insomnia is, it's not being able to fall asleep or having issues with falling asleep in a time period of less than a month. Now, we can do this with lifestyle changes, which means removing caffeine from our daily lives, tobacco, over the counter medication, or alcohol. Now, alcohol has a misconception where people think that if they drink it, they will feel a little bit more relaxed into falling asleep. Now, when this is true, it will relax you into falling asleep, but this sleep is not going to be that rich, full rest that you need. It will be very light sleep, which will create that person's mind to be a little bit more awake and more likely to wake up in the middle of the night, as they have been. Another misconception is with working out. A lot of people think that if you work out before bed, your body will finally be tired and will want to rest, which is actually the opposite. That's why working out at least 5 to 6 hours before bedtime is ideal for someone who does struggle with falling asleep. Another treatment is to make a designated time to go to sleep, even on the weekends. So a lot of the times, if, for example, you go to sleep at 10 o'clock, sometimes at 2 o'clock, sometimes at 8, it does make your body question when it should be falling asleep. So basically, a person needs to, for example, set a sleeping time for 10 o'clock every single day, even if it's the weekend, which is sometimes what people struggle the most with when they want to fall asleep longer, or if they want to sleep in. It will definitely mess with that body clock and when the body will want to fall asleep. So this is definitely an important one. It's very simple, but it makes a world of a difference. Now, another one is removing distractions from the bedroom, such as TVs, pets, or radios. Now, this one is very simple, but it's also, like I said, very important because sometimes a lot of people are used to having their cell phones next to them, or their radio, or putting their music on. And sometimes having the music on does help just because it relaxes the person. But sometimes what the person needs is just quiet and silence. So this is also something that is worthy of trying, depending on the person and how light of a sleeper they are. Now, another treatment for insomnia is cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. Now, this helps clients identify and replace the thoughts and behaviors that cause or worsen sleep problems with habits that promote sound sleep. Now, this CBT therapy is very helpful for a person who does have chronic insomnia. Now, this is someone who hasn't been able to sleep or has had really bad sleeping patterns for 3 months or more. It's very effective to treat them just because it is the first recommended line of treatment. So this is usually the first step that goes into helping someone with chronic insomnia. Now, what the CBT triangle is, as shown on the illustration, is basically consistent of three main, as you can see, the circles. It's thoughts, behavior, and feelings. So what this is, it's a psychotherapy where we think about what happens to us here in the present. We find irrational beliefs, also known as automatic thoughts, and we challenge these beliefs to make them less negative. So what this means is that we have to become aware of our everyday thoughts and find the core beliefs behind these thoughts in order to create a more positive outlook and create more positive feelings to create more positive behaviors. And it's a cycle. So here, as you can see, we can start with our thoughts, where if I say I can't do this, the feeling that it creates, it says I feel inadequate and embarrassed, which then creates a behavior where I'm acting um, out of function to avoid work. So I don't want to go to work and things like that. So it creates a negative impact. Now, what if we can reverse the thoughts in order to make something a little bit more positive out of it? So let's say if I can do this, then I will feel adequate for my job. Therefore, I will want to go to work. So it creates thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and it's the main three things in order for me to either have a better perspective on life or have a little bit more of a negative one. Now, what the CBT treatment is when it comes to insomnia, the cognitive means it's just a change in beliefs or worries that keep the client from sleeping. So again, going back to the CBT triangle, we want to change the belief that, let's say, in this case or in this scenario, I feel worthless because of my job. So we want to look at why the person is feeling worthless and look at those beliefs as far as what makes them believe that they're worthless. Now, the behavioral part of the CBT treatment is that we want to change the behaviors that keep that person from sleeping. Now, we can do this with stimulus control therapy, which what that means is we're going to change the way that we sleep. And what that means is we're going to set a bedtime or a time that we wake up. So the next one is also the sleep restriction. Now, sleep restriction just means that when we see our bed, we know that it is meant to sleep in. So we don't eat in our bed, we don't just hang out in our bed with our phones. We know that our bed is meant just to sleep. Now, the other one is sleep hygiene. So basically, what this means is making sure that we don't drink caffeine or alcohol, like we said in the previous slides. We just want to make sure that there is no outside beverages or anything that will create um, any kind of stimulus that keeps us awake. Also, the sleep environment improvement. What means is we just change the physical space. So sometimes it helps to put darker colors or maybe lighten the mood by changing the physical space. So maybe like moving your bed around, thicker curtains so that there's less light coming through. More on the physical aspect of what is affecting your sleep. The next one is relaxation training. So what this means, it just depends on the person. If they want to go through meditation, or if they want to listen to certain kind of music, or if they find some kind of relaxation method or something that puts their body at ease in order to be able to fall asleep. Now, a way to put into perspective CBT on insomniacs, there was a case study with a group of 36 individuals who received CBT, and they had assessments done every 3 and 6 months. Now, there was also a control group with 26 people who didn't receive that CBT, and they were also insomniacs. So basically, what they found was that 40.6% of participants achieved clinical change that underwent that CBT. So basically, what that means is that almost half of the group that went through CBT did get better sleeping patterns. They were able to feel a little bit more restful, and they were able to control their sleeping a little bit more than they did before they underwent CBT. Now, the control group that didn't receive the CBT but still had insomnia, 18.2% of them did show improvement. Now, that is a very big difference compared to the group that did go through CBT. That's a whole 22.4%. So we can see here that it is very, very useful to go through CBT, especially when it comes to insomnia, just because a lot of the times being able to channel and to understand and to pinpoint the thoughts and feelings that the client might be going through, that's what's creating that insomnia. So a lot of the times when CBT can do that for someone, it helps them understand what they need to fix rather than looking for what is something to blame. So, for example, a lot of the times when people are saying, well, I think that I can't fall asleep because I'm crazy or something very out of the ordinary, they can find something a little bit more, something that makes more sense, that's a little bit more ordinary, and something that they can actually control because they know what it is.